Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Load of Balls, and it is the All-Star Picks. And what an All-Star lineup I have for you tonight. We have Pete McGrath Jr., Mark Doran, and of course my right-hand man, Mark Fitz. Lads, what a championship, boys, and you know, I'm sure we're going through each team, and it was hard to pick 15 players for each code. Tonight we're going to do the intermediate and senior. Marty's been called away, so unless someone's given a brown envelope to be included in the junior team, we'll get that done tomorrow night. But Pete, how hard was it to pick a 15 for each code?
It's like anything, this sort of exercise, John, it is difficult because throughout the championship, obviously players have played different numbers of games. They've played against different quality of opposition at different times. Maybe you haven't seen every player in every match, so it's hard to get an appraisal of how they're performing in terms of on a consistent basis or not. But you do the best you can. You pick out players who have impressed you personally, and I think throughout both, as we're focusing on tonight, the intermediate and senior championships, there were a lot of players who impressed on a number of occasions, and I think that the teams hopefully will be reflective of that.
Good stuff. And Donny, I suppose it doesn't matter to you now because you've been to every single game going, and you know you can't have that excuse.
Yeah, I've probably watched more football this 6 weeks than I've watched maybe this last 6 years. But it just shows you what 3 months of lockdown can do. But now you're actually sitting going, I'm actually sitting here yesterday going, what am I going to do at the weekend now? And, I know there's still, I think the Cavan final's on RTE. But it's not the same leaving house on a Sunday at 2 o'clock and maybe not back to 10:30. Like it's a single man's paradise for a wee while.
How hard was it to pick your teams then, Donny?
It actually was very hard now, to be fair. Look, I was lucky enough. I think the only senior championship game I didn't see was Rostrevor and Downpatrick, simply because it clashed with the Mayor Bridge and Kilcoo game. And I've seen, I think, nearly, I would say I've seen 90% of the intermediate games. So I had a good, I actually found it, maybe I'll be right, I found it quite easy to pick mine, if I'm being honest.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Just what players you've seen and what ones have impressed. As I say, this is subjective, lads, all right? As Junior was saying there, you know, we'll go through 6 defenders. Positions these days don't mean anything really. You know, you get man markers and attacking players. So, Betsy, you've got the task of naming the team then, okay? So the boys will give you their nominees for the 6th, and then that's our show then. And then if I don't agree with it, I'll overrule you.
Okay, no worries.
Right, Pete, there's first one up. We can edit it out. I can edit it out. Pete, your goalkeeper then.
For the goalkeeper,
nominees and who you've gone for and why.
Well, actually, I thought the intermediate goalkeeper was a pretty straightforward choice, and I went for Jack Hazard. Saw him a couple of times. Very, very impressed. Big presence. Controls his area well. Commanding in the air. Good kick out. Can vary it either length or go short and be accurate. And clean sheets in the semi-final and final. So to me, that spoke for itself. And my number 1 was Jack Hazard.
Yeah. Borny?
I'd have to agree with. Can I call you baby Pete or to call you wee Pete?
If you're that bold, you can call him whatever you want because I won't get offended.
No, I went with wee Pete in that one. Just Jack has been very impressive this year. Seen him actually playing for down under 20s earlier on in the year. And to be fair, he looks really the full deal now. I know they are just in the first 15 minutes when Drumgaff a wee bit of a run on you now. Did a couple of goal chances, but the way he spread it himself and made the goal look so small, I thought Jack was a shoe-in. I also thought, like, give a wee mention to Owen Cotter from Leitrim. Thought he was very good. And I know he made a wee bit of a mistake again yourselves. But I've seen him again on Rake, and I've seen him again Shamrocks, and thought he was very, very good. But look, Jack was a number one shoe-in.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I had Jack as well. I thought he was very composed. I know he's young enough goalkeeper, but he was very composed, and he's going to get the ball. He's quite confident, coming out with the ball, and he sizes the situation up in front of him, and that's a good part of his game. But again, I think he's a shoe-in for that number one spot. Best goalkeeper in the intermediate, yeah.
Brilliant stuff. All right, first soul man. All right, pick your 6 defenders then.
Okay, so I went for a full back line of number 2, Pierce McPolan of Drumgath. Tigerish and tenacious cornerback. Thought he had a very good championship. Made a super block on the goal line near the end of the first half in the final, which at that time actually kept Drumgath in the game. Sort of came out of nowhere. I think Brendan Rice actually thought it might have been a penalty at one point and spoke to the umpires, and it wasn't. And eventually they arrived at the correct decision because there was too much of a distance between the kick and the block to give a foot block. So I've gone for Pierce McPolan at cornerback. My fullback, Callum Fitzsimons of Saul. Again, strong and physical in there. Really good partnership with Jack in behind him. And formed the centre of that solid defence that, as we mentioned already, didn't concede a goal in either the semi-final or final. And on the other corner, I went with actually Doran Morgan of Leitrim. Son of Bransford legend G. Morgan. Comes from very good stock. Player who never throws the towel in. Has a bright future ahead of him, I think. And thought Leitrim maybe were worthy of someone in there, so I've gone for Dara in the other corner. And in the half-back line, again, you'll be happy enough here, there's a Saul man in John. 5, Cormac Byrne. And while he normally lined out at 6 for yourselves, I thought defensively he covered nearly every blade of grass in most of his performances. And again, early on, when Drumgath sort of had the run on Saul in the final, he at one point made a really vital tackle to stop a goal chance, which I thought was a key moment in the game. So I've gone for Cormac. At 6, I went for Colin McGinn from Drumgath. Thought he's been strong at centre half back. Big physical presence. He acts as a stopper for anything coming through the middle. And he's also capable of getting forward and creating opportunities that way for them. And at the other wing back, Cathal Tumulty from Drumgath as well. Because I think probably Drumgath's half back line was their best line all year. And I thought maybe they deserved a second place in there for that reason. Thought Callum himself had an excellent championship. Still only in his mid-20s, is already taking on the role of a leader in that team. And I think he can continue to develop in that role and continue to try and push this Drumgath team, which has great potential, on to the next level. So my 6 defenders, Pierce McPolan, Callum Fitzsimons, Dara Morgan, Cormac Byrne, Colin McGinn and Cathal Tumulty. A couple of fellas very unlucky to miss out in there. Cormac McElroy of Leitrim, first-year senior footballer, thought it a good year. Rory McCrickard as well. Damien McKeown of Shamrocks and a couple of others, but those are the 6 I ended up going for.
Good stuff, Pete. Doran.
We're very, very nearly the same. I think maybe one player different. I went with left corner back Pierce McPolan again at Drumgath. I thought he had a brilliant championship. With Callum Fitzsimons again from Seoul, again another brilliant championship. At fullback, I just love the way he attacks every ball. Left corner went with Dara Fagan from Anatloan. I've seen him, but it's been very, very good. I thought Anatloan standout performer by a mile. I know the night they played Drumgath, he can kick 2 points. I know that they played Drumar, I've seen him a couple of times, and I thought he's been outstanding. I know he usually plays in the half-back line, but I just thought I had to get him in somewhere. Half-back, I went for Cathal Tumulty. I speak to again at Drumgath. I thought he was very, very good. Attacking, came up the field the other day, scored a brilliant point. Again, Anatloan again that Saturday evening, he was really, really good. At 6, another Drumgath man, I went with Colin McGinn. I think Colin's their leader. He drives out of defence at every opportunity. And at left half back, I've actually went with Jamie Morgan from Saul. I was really impressed with Jamie. I think he's super on the ball. Jamie, you maybe know more about him than I do, Figgy, but he's so composed on the ball. I think he kicked a brilliant score the other day too. And that's the 6 I went for now. To be fair, I thought Rory McCrickard, a toyed, we're putting Rory in front of Colin McGinn because Rory had a super championship. I think you were at the game again, Enrique, where he kicked the super point. And to be fair, again, yourselves, he drove Leitrim on days, but I just thought they were the 6 who really stood out for me.
I'll tell you about Jimmy Morgan, boys. He got his appendix out a month ago, and he came back. He came back in the semi-final, and testament to that fella. Like, that's the sort of thing you need. Like, boys crying out for this and that, but you know, he's one of the surgeon's knife, and you know, fair play to him.
He never stopped running. I think it was the night he did Leitrim in Newcastle. He just was he just was up and down like a yo-yo, just up. And to be fair, it was the same on Saturday, same on Sunday in the final again.
Nice. Quality.
So that's the secret then, Fig. If we go to the championship, get the appendix out.
Trying to get them a stone later. Betsy, any food of thought there from the boys, and you know, who is the road balls then defence?
Yeah, funny. I picked my own 15-2, and it shadows a lot of what Doran and Pete have said. We're going with 6 defenders, obviously interchangeable as such, but Pierce McPolin is a definite there. As that championship came on, he just got better and better, and he was a real standout cornerback. And usually cornerbacks don't, make obvious standouts during championship campaigns, but he for one certainly did. Fullback, it's Callum Fitzsimons in there. He was absolutely superb against Colin McCummich in the final there on Sunday, and he's a player that's really improved. He's tenacious, and he's one of those boys. If he's coming out when he's marking his opposition player, he gets a hand in, he gets a boot in, he gets something in, he makes life hell for whoever he's marking, but he's got more composed in the ball, so he's there in there as well, fullback. I have to go as well. I had Dara Fagan, and Doran suggested him too. Dara Fagan from Annaclone. I think I've said before, he's going to be a boy that's going to lead Annaclone into this next generation of players they've got coming through. And again, he had a great championship and showed leadership too. So Pierce McPolin, Callum Fitzsimons, Dara Fagan so far. Cormac Byrne, I know he's traditionally year 6 for Shaw this year. Again, another player's grown in stature, determined, held possession well, tracked back when he needed to, covered a lot of space for the Shaw defence, so would have him in there as well. Very tight between, toss-up between Rory McCrickard and Colin McGinn. Boys, Rory McCrickard was outstanding in that championship, and his athleticism and drive and determination, and Colin McGinn obviously a very good championship too, but Rory McCrickard just edges it for me. That last place toss-up, I thought Cahill Tumbledy and Damien McKeown of Shamrocks. I know Jamie Morgan mentioned too, but Cahill Tumbledy gets the nod there simply because of his consistency, and he's a half-back that can get scores, and that's a precious commodity. So I would add Cormac Byrne, Rory McCrickard, and Cahill Tumbledy to that.
Brilliant lads. Okay, Pete, your midfield then. Did you go for a pair, or did you just go for the best two that you thought?
No, I've pulled it from two different clubs. Two quite big, physical, strong players, which I think you need in a midfield. I've gone for Saul's captain, fantastic Rory Mullen, who I think has developed and matured so much since he was a player on the down minor 7 or 8 years ago, when he needed to fill out more, he needed to mature a bit as a footballer, he needed to develop his game, and he has done all those things. He has clearly put an awful lot of work in, and you can see that he's a leader that the rest of the Saul team follow and look up to. And with that team around him, the quality that is there for him to have gained that respect among the group says something in itself. So for me, Rory Mullen was a shoe-in. And I went for Gary McCardle, actually, along with him. I think Gary's still a key player for Annaclone, who, let's be honest, were themselves quite close to qualifying for the final. Late McGrath goal edged them over the line in the end. And I think Gary's been a key man there now for a long time, but he is a Mr. Consistency. He consistently delivers big performances for the team when they need them most. So for that reason, I've gone with Gary in there as well. A couple of players very unlucky to miss out, obviously. Cahill Arnold, offhand from the final, obviously got man of the match in the championship final. But just felt that the two players I've gone with are so important for their team that I couldn't leave them out.
Doran?
I went with Rory Mullen. Just like, again, everything is we Peter said is true. And I remember having Rory 5 or 6 years ago at under 21 level, and look, he's a big strong fella, probably just maybe an extra 2 or 3 pounds on him that he didn't need. But look, this year, I mentioned to you, I seen the first time I seen him in a couple of years was down in I actually put Castlewell down in Saul, and he was best player in the field. He just looked so lean. He looked like a lean, mean fighting machine. Yeah. I'm sure Rory, I love that's the new saying in Saul. Rory, like he just shot. He was a boy to, because I remember under 21, he had loads of ability. Just maybe was 1 or 2 pounds, just a wee bit. And that night I seen him playing against Castlewell, I just was so impressed. And maybe it's them tight fits jersey Saul have, but just it looks even now, but Rory, to be fair, he was shoe-in. Other midfield partner, I thought it was a toss-up between Pierce Oak and Packy Downey. Look, to be fair, Packy, I actually thought Packy won the game for Drumgaff again, Athlone, because I had actually watched Athlone the week before, where Benny McGarry, Kevin Anderson, and Gary McGarry, that three just choked the life out of Dramara. And next thing, there was a bold move from Jackie, just firing Packy straight in the middle of the field. And I got that day in Newcastle. Packy was absolutely immense. I thought the first half on Sunday, he was really good. And then Pierce sort of got the bones on him. Pierce saying, look, the Pierce athleticism then just sort of took over. To be fair, Pierce Oak was really good for leading them again. Yourselves drove, leading them on again, and kicked, I forget, 7 or 8 points. I know again, Enrique was very good, but I just thought when Drumgaff were under pressure around that middle area, I thought it was a big call from Jack Lynch to throw Packy to middle of the field. And I thought, look, it worked the treat. I actually thought Packy won the game for Drumgaff. And I would just give a tender vote to Packy just ahead of Pierce Oak, just on what they've done again from around Athlone.
Yeah. No, there's definitely merit in them choices, boys. And you know, you're saying about Roy Mulliner, Railways, like he lost after lockdown. He worked so hard. He must have lost around, I would say, about 5 kilos. You know, and he's more like a half back now, Doran, isn't he? Like the way he's built now. Just
he's a super athlete. You've obviously trained him very well.
But Ronan's doing a good job down there. I suppose it was a blow missing him, and like he got a shoulder injury. Yeah. So
I thought at one stage you were bringing him back on again.
We were close. Either I was going on or he was going on. One of the two.
I hope it was him then.
Let's say midfield. I suppose it's like, you know what it is on an intermediate level. It is so important to get your midfield right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important, and a lot of those players mentioned had big impacts in this year's championship. I suppose you mentioned Rory Mullin, but people forget as well, he's been beset by bad injury woes the past few years, and to get himself back to where he is now after those injury setbacks is testament to his character. But I think we're guilty at times as well, looking at players and, you know, the performance of the field. But I thought a solid captain. He carried himself so well. See that speech after the match? Well, there's going to be things we overlook. I thought he touched on a lot of very poignant, you know, features of that speech, and I think that's something that in a captain as well. I think he was the leader there, and that showed. So later on and off the pitch, unfortunately for me, I don't think he makes the top 2 midfielders there. I had Packy, because I don't think Packy would have got to where Drumgaff would have got to where they were this year without Packy Downey. They needed Packy back, and Packy was inspired for them this season. And Pierce Oak McCrickard, I would have him partnering Packy Downey. Pierce Oak had a horse of the championship, and again, a player always steps up and performs, and it's, again, come back maybe from last year. He wasn't fully into it last year, and he's had a great championship. So I would just maybe pick Pierce Oak, McCrickard, and Packy Downey there as the partnership.
Good stuff. That's Rio not speaking to me now. For the rest, good stuff. Donny, we'll go with your 6 forwards then. You know, and I suppose with forwards they interchange all the time now, but we'll go with your 6 and reasons why.
Well, I went with Shea Byrne at wing half forward, just in McGrath. I thought the first half the other day was immense, and look, they missed a couple of frees, important frees, but I thought all year Shea has been setting like a serious burst of pace. Like, he's just so fleet-footed, and he's light, and I thought the first half he was exceptional. And even in the other end again, Alan Cloney was really good. I think I referred to that a few weeks ago, watched some Gaff again, Ballymorton in a league game, and some of the points he kicked was outrageous. I remember watching him again on Rake in the first half. I only seen the first half of that game, and I thought he was exceptional. I think Shea's only 20, 21 maybe. He's a young fan. I thought he was exceptional all championship. Number 11 was a shoe, and I thought Kieran Harney was just immense. Every single game I've seen Saul this year, he has been he's been brilliant. He's just he's just a wee bundle of energy. It'd be a nightmare actually to mark. He's just on the gun. I actually somebody said about Saul's leader, yes, Rory, but Kieran Harney would probably run him pretty close. I just think the way Kieran plays in the field, he is a real leader. I've went at wing half forward with Pierce. Look, you could put Pierce anywhere from you put him back to full back to Mark Conor McGrath. And midfield, he's been Pearce has had another brilliant game. So I've just put him at wing half forward. He was always going to make the team, and to be fair, he got a goal. I've seen Pearce now. I think it was against Shamrocks. He kicked a point that I never thought he could kick, and then he scored a goal. I think it was his left foot. He shouldered through in the side. I think Pearce is really lockdown's been good to Pearce. We actually during lockdown we had groups and we give him wee challenges, and, kicking balls and bins and stuff. So Pearce now. Pearce has definitely been working hard now.
Oh, so Dory, you're the reason why, mate. You're the reason.
No, it wasn't my group. I can't take credit for that. We would send videos in, and I'd love to say that was mine, but it wasn't in my group, unfortunately. The full forward line, look, I've went with probably Mark Connolly. I just think, look, Mark's brave, and Mark's been about the way for some gaff, but it's free kicks, and it just shows you how important a free taker is. Like Mark again out alone, and that wee bit of experience. And there was a time again out alone, I remember he went to Conor McConville or Shea McConville and Shea Borden with about 10 minutes left in the game, and he was going just, you could have a wee word in their ear, just telling him to settle down. But it's like I think he kicked 4 or 5 points the other day. He kicked one from play again out alone. A pile of scores, and I think he had to just. I don't think Gaff would have got that far if it hadn't been for Mark. So I thought he had to get in. Look, full forward, Rory O'Hara. I think Rory has everything needs to be. Like I think Rory has everything in the drawer to be a top class forward, inter-county forward in years to come. I know he's only 19. Maybe the other day wasn't as good as game. He was in and out, and I know he got the goal, but he kicked a couple of balls in the goalkeeper's hands. But again, all championship he has been superb. He's such a weapon because when the ball in the air, for such a big man, he's brilliant with his feet, right foot, left foot, and I think Rory was a cert. Another way I think was a cert just on an individual display. I think this is the best individual display I've seen in the intermediate championship. Was Conor McGregor's again unraked up in Ballyhone. I think you were at the game, Faggy, where he kicked 1-5, 1-6 from play. And like Conor's a player. He's the one player I've watched this year in the intermediate championship. When he gets the ball, you can feel excitement. And look, probably Conor's just going to have to learn with it. I think Hughes maybe double teamed him, and then Pearce went back, and it was just Conor's going to have to learn with that. But I think that's the 6 I went with, and that's why I went for them.
Yeah, I suppose it's testament to Conor that he's getting that attention as well, like as I said. But
I thought his display again on rate that day,
yeah.
For it was an individually was just this like.
Nice, quality footballer. Junior, who you going for?
A few overlaps, but a couple of wee different ones as well. I actually went for the other Shea from Drumgaff in my half forward line. I went Shea McConville. I think he's very, very important to what Drumgaff do, and generally when he plays well, they play well. I thought it was, to be honest, that position for me was a toss up between himself and Shea Byrne, and I just edged it with Shea McConville. I thought both of them had reasonable first halves, as Mark says the other day, but I just thought the occasion maybe got to Shea Byrne a wee bit more. And there were a couple of those free kicks that I felt were maybe innately scoreable that ended up floating wide. So edge for Shea McConville at wing forward. At 11, like Mark says, was an easy pick. That was Kieran Harney. Diminutive player, low centre of gravity, eternally busy, constantly linking the play. He's capable of getting scores as well. So he was an easy pick at number 11. And the other wing forward, I went for Cahill Gorman of Shamrocks. Highly talented footballer, prolific score getter. Of course, lives in Restrever. Just want to say that out there. He lives in Restrever. That's a home address in Restrever. But no, look, I think he would fit into most sides.
Is this an exclusive you're giving me here, Pete?
Transfer window's still open, isn't it? I think he would fit into most sides at senior level, though. And I think throughout the championship, rather, he showed his ability and class in most of the games he played. So that was my half forward line: Shea McConville, Kieran Harney, Cahill Gorman. And inside then, I went at 13 with Lorcan Harney. I think he's an absolute live wire in there. He got the first goal in the final, which sort of pulled yourselves all back into the game, just when Drumgaff maybe were starting to look like edging away. People talk about the big man for the big occasion. Well, I think Lorcan's actually the wee man for the big occasion. Small in size and stature, but delivers when it really matters. At 14 was also Rory O'Hare. Tall, rangy, capable of winning his own ball, capable of kicking scores. Really impressed me the few times that I've seen him play, and I think at 14 he was an obvious choice. And like Mark there as well, I've gone for Conor McGrath in the other corner. Thought he's an inspirational player for the Leitrim side, who made it the whole way to the semi-final, a leader in what is a young team, but he carries that mantle and responsibility, I think, very, very well. So my full forward line was Lorcan Harney, Rory O'Hare and Conor McGrath. Mark's already mentioned a couple of the other people there who would have been contenders. I think as well, John McAteer. I was actually talking to one intermediate manager during the week, and he described John McAteer as the sweeper without the brush. He talks a very good game. This manager said, not me, but John, good footballer and worthy of a mention in there as well. But those are the 6 that I've edged with.
Good stuff. Fitzy, any boys there that have sort of thinking to yourself, Jesus, do they make the team and has it given you?
Yeah, a lot of tough calls here. Surprised no mention of Ryan Hillen of Drumgaff, who had a superb championship at 11. He was deadly, especially remember that in Rake game as well for Drumgaff. But he was unlucky there. Cahill Gorman as well for Shamrocks. But I would agree with their repeat great championship. Special mention to Ging Connolly there, Drumgaff. Ging must be 35, 36. And again, him and Packy, Drumgaff needed that experience. And again, if I'm saying Packy is a big reason why they got to the final. Ging possibly even more so because that influence, especially in the free kicks. So they're all very notable mentions. If I was going for 6, Shea Byrne from Drumgaff would be the first choice there. He was near faultless. Those frees and that, but definitely would have had him in there. Centre half forward, Kieran Harney. Hell of a championship. Just looks like one of those players when you're sitting there and you're coming on the field ready, you're marking Kieran Harney, that boy's driven. You just know that boy's just going to have an impact over the 60 minutes. He's absolutely driven. And Pierce Lavery, one of the best players in the Intermediate Championship this year. He's in there, great shoeing as well. Absolutely standing, done a great job of Paggy Downey in the first half midfield on Sunday. I think you'd have to go then with Kieran Harney's brother Lorcan, who some of his kick passing over the period of the championship was first class. Rory O'Hare, full forward, who was a great goal getter, and Conor McGrath was some of the finest individual displays across all 3 of the championships this year. So Shea Byrne, Kieran Harney, Pierce Laverty, Lorcan Harney, Rory O'Hare, Conor McGrath.
Brilliant stuff. Boys, I suppose whenever you're going through that team and out there, and I suppose it's made up of more of the semi-finalists as well. But there has been some of the smaller teams as well, that like the likes of Drumar and out there that have great performances as well. Fitzy.
Definitely talked about just picking Drumara first. Brendan McKay and Luke Savage of Drumara, two great players. Andrew Gilmore St John's in the early rounds was carrying St John's on his back. Thought James Colgan and Rake, Ronan McAlinn as well in Rake, boys showed up well in the early rounds. Kevin Anderson, Gary McCardle of Annaclone. Kevin Anderson was particularly impressive, and Brendan McCardle had a decent championship too. Don't forget Annaclone did get to the semi-finals, so definitely. But I think as championships move on, memories tend to fade in the early rounds, and that's why you do find a lot of these teams are made up of players that have played in the semi-finals and finals, rightly so on merit, but definitely they were some players I think stood out in those earlier rounds.
Doran, I suppose we'll go on to now the one that the player fit jersey. They've kindly sponsored a jersey for the podcast. And who would you like to see the player of the championship, intermediate championship?
I think Kieran Harney. Every single game I've seen Saul play, he has been their go-to man, their link man, their score getter. They're probably their best turnover tackle. I just think, I look at Kieran Harney and you're going, he's probably a dream player to manage. Just, I know he was in the county squad at the start of the year. Looking Kieran, he probably in the county squad, he's playing inside, and he's up against the Corey Quinns and the Jerome Johnsons and the Donald O'Hare's. Look, he's just at that level. I thought he was by far the best player I've seen all year.
Were you surprised he was playing centre half forward, Doran?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, it wasn't a position I ever thought. Maybe look at county football, he was. I never ever thought that Kieran at 11. Actually, it shocked me, but to be fair, it's worked out very well for you because every number 6 I've seen him mark this year, he has destroyed them. And you think about, usually sometimes you're in a half back line, you're hoping you don't mark as tight and you're loose, and then you see the likes of Kieran Harney buzzing about, and you're going, This is all I know. If I was playing half back and I seen him, I'd be like, this is all I need to. So it would remind me a wee bit of a Ronnie Saxon. I remember years ago and used to hate playing Maybridge. And no disrespect, I would have let Rard mark the Bennies or the Mickey Walshes in this, because you've seen Ronnie Saxon coming. It's just like a wee live wire, just a bundle of energy. And Kieran Harney just, in my eyes, typifies everything that Saul do well. Like, you couldn't pick a fault with him in this championship, because his tackling, his link play, his score getting, his setting scores up, his free taking, his break ball, everything. It's just faultless. And look, Kieran's a fella I know that works serious hard on his game, and I actually think I don't think any player's anywhere near him. There has been other, but look, I don't think I think Kieran's head and shoulders above anything I've seen.
Pete, your thoughts on the player of the championship?
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with Mark. I had Kieran as my player of the championship, and there's very little else to add. Mark's sort of given him a eulogy there that would fill any book, but it's praise that he deserves. Had an excellent championship, and I think he is my hands down player of the championship.
Good stuff. That's who's your nominees for, and who is the player who's getting the jersey?
Pierce Lavery definitely was in contention there. You know, his a lot of experience of inter-county football shown through at intermediate level for him. Definitely, he was definitely considered. Conor McGrath, I think, was highly regarded by many, and again, another player who's seen as potential another future county senior, and I just thought he had an absolutely sublime championship. But I had Kieran Harney, as I agree with the two boys. Kieran Harney just inspired. You could just see from the first round through that final, he wanted to win that intermediate championship, and you just see he had done everything in his power, behind the scenes, on the field, training with that. He just wanted to win that championship. That was his ultimate goal, and it's shown through in everything he did. And I think he's a very deserving winner of the intermediate player of the championship.
Brilliant stuff. Well on, Kieran. So, well, as you say, Doran, he works so hard in his game. His standards are you know, he's a standard setter up in Saw, like, and it's up to the rest of the boys to get there.
He's a great lad. Like, Kieran is I couldn't say a bad word about Kieran. I think he's a great lad. Anytime I've talked to him, just at training, his work rate. Look, it's just, he maybe felt a wee bit hard on, but the kind of just for the competition he was up with inside, and look, he wasn't going to get much game time. And to be fair to Kieran, he's run away, and he's absolutely, he is, in my eyes, he's been the best forward in intermediate. Through the year, yes, I do say Conor McGrath had a brilliant individuals play, but throughout the year, I've seen him, even going back to that league game, I've seen he's playing Castlewell, and he was just, I think Cass went through 3 or 4 different markers on him. That's the first night where it surprised me, seeing him at 11. This is a wee bit, and he just, look, your Rona's getting, it's tactical, I'm going to call it a tactical masterclass, and it's all blueprint, whatever you'd like, but look, it's worked its right, and Kieran's a great lad, and I'm happy for him.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah, he'll be happy now.
Yeah, I'd be on the phone now. But boys,
just before we go off the intermediate, John, there are 2 more that I would like to mention.
Yes.
Which would be the best post-match interview.
All right.
And the best statsman, and I think Ryan O'Gorman's fully deserving winner of both.
we'll get going an award as well there for the 2, Pete. But boys, I suppose we'll talk about the final as well. You know, there's no point in you know, I think Saul deserved the victory. Drumgaff, yes, got into the lead, but how did you find the match, Doran, and did it surprise you, the outcome?
No, I didn't. I always felt Saul would just have too much for Drumgaff. I knew Drumgaff would come out of the blocks fast. They would have to come out of the blocks fast, because Saul has been the team in the last couple of rounds, was coming out of the blocks fast. And to be fair, look, once we've weathered that early storm, that 13, 14 minute, 15th minute, you did sort of get the grips of the game, and the tide started slowly turning. Yes, they missed a few scores in the second half, but I would have to give, and I was one of the boys, I give Saul's forward line, built them up before the final, and every game I've thought there was a pair, but I actually thought the Saul defence was brilliant in the second half. Look, yes, the few for them, Gaff missed few frees, but they also missed. There was people sitting in the stand. They missed a lot of ways. But the pressure, Saul, I don't think there was some Gaff man had an easy shot. There was 2 or 3 men clinging, and I actually thought the final was where Saul defence actually showed. Look, because the whole build up getting all the praise. I thought the Saul defence was absolutely brilliant on Sunday, especially the second half. Once they were that 15, 16 minute, but Drumgaff were always going to come out of the guns blazing because they knew they had it. If Drumgaff were going to stay in the game, they had to come out of the traps fast. And but all every game, I think he's in a fast start. There's 2 or 3 goals in the first 6 or 7 minutes. And to be fair, look, Drumgaff done a lot of stuff right in the first 10 or 15 minutes. But once I thought Saul got weathered the storm and got maybe a wee bit of nerves creeping in the system. To be fair, Larkin Harney got a brilliant goal. And you've seen the minute he got it, it was a lot of hard work to do. The minute he got it, he had one thing in his mind.
Yeah.
It was goal, and to be fair, he'd like a lot of work. And it was just the minute the goal went in, look, it sort of settled everybody. And then slowly but surely, Saul started just turning the screw. And then the start of the second half, again, that was it. There's only going to be one winner. And to be fair, look, Drumgaff missed a few scores, but Saul kicked a lot of balls in the goalkeeper's hand, one, I think 3 or 4. But I do think, look, throughout the year, Saul were the best team. I actually think, look, I thought the best intermediate game I've seen this year was Saul and Shamrocks. I thought that was a brilliant game of football in Newcastle. Yeah. And Shamrocks people, maybe Shamrocks aren't far away. And I know I've said this before, the Shamrocks and the Elite Rooms are not that far away, but I thought the best game was Saul and Shamrocks. But Saul were definitely, by and far, deserved to win it and were the best team to win it. And it just shows you, I think I said last week about Eddie Harney and the plan he had in place. And look, it's delighted for people like that. It's delighted. Great for Saul, but Saul, I would hope the players now, because there's no reason. It was a brilliant achievement, Saul winning the intermediate championship, but it would be an even bigger achievement if Saul could get to Division 1. And I actually think Saul would do very well in Division 1 because they're a serious young team and a great lot of footballers. And I think, look, yes, it's great now, celebrating all your week and all, but I think after Christmas, Saul should really set their sights Division 1 football, and that would be a massive achievement. And there's no reason they can't do it.
No pressure then, Doran. Cheers. Pete, how do you see the final and did you tip Saul the minute? And
yeah, well, I think Drumgaff came out of the blocks very quickly, very well. Started the game strongly and looked really, really impressive for 15, 16 minutes. I thought, honestly, in that first 12, 13 minutes, I thought Saul were struggling a bit. Drumgaff were winning a lot of primary possession around the middle, and they had their eye in that first period of the game. They were fighting the target, and despite the fact that Saul got the goal, I think you needed the water break just to settle things down a bit, which you succeeded in doing. And then in the second part of the first half, if you like, the second quarter, I thought Saul were the better team by quite a long way and could have had the game dead and buried by half-time, only for the clearance by Pierce McPullen that we mentioned earlier on. I think a third goal in the first half would have been game over. And then, as Mark says, the second half, you look at Drumgaff's total 14, 15 wides and you say that was poor shooting. But actually, I think, as he says, a lot of them, it wasn't the fact that it was a poor shot. It was that the forward actually shouldn't have been shooting at all in that situation, because there was so much pressure being put on by the Saul defence that the smart option would have been to continue to recycle the ball and try and work another opportunity. But as you know yourself, certain players, maybe in particularly high stakes games, they get that half chance and they think, we need to shoot, we're behind here, we need to pull the gap back. And it was probably a wee bit of poor decision making a lot of those wides rather than actually poor execution of a shot. Overall, Saul, the better team on the day, the stronger team on the day, and in the end, I think it was quite a comfortable win into that sort of home stretch of the last 10, 12 minutes.
Fitzy, do you think Saul were deserved winners of the championship throughout? I must say, Eddie Harney and Rory Mullen and Sam Burns, they developed this warm-up prehab that we do. Muscle injuries were very, very limited, whereas other teams seem to suffer hamstring tears and, groin injuries, and boys were missing that. So, Saul really did have, a full squad, really, especially from the semi-final up to pick from.
I think you need to look at this Saul victory in a lot wider context than just the championship run. You look at Saul, the management team led by Ronan McCartan, yourself, and others included. Every base was covered. it's very obvious as well. The strength and conditioning was given a big priority, and that really shone through in the squad. You look at the strong soul committee there, I know like Mark McGrath and that on that committee. You know, you've got all the back in there, you've got a great supporting soul club. You've got that history of the past decade of underage success. So all these things came together and brought Sol to where they are now. That's intermediate champions, and hopefully, from their perspective, getting through Division 1 or getting through Division 2 into Division 1. So that wider context is very important to look at too, because I think it was really a club effort. Seeing the final, I actually think it wasn't Sol's best performance of the championship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've seen them play better, and it could be controversial here, but I think if Sol had upped it again, they could actually have obliterated from gap, especially in the second half. I think there actually was a big enough gap in standard between the teams. From Gath, I don't know what happened. They started so well, and then they got a wee bit nervy, and they started missing really like straightforward chances that you wouldn't expect from a Gath team. Or generally confident, composed, but I had tipped Sol to win this, and I said goals will be decisive. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but 14 goals possibly Sol scored in the championship this year.
Yeah,
and that's incredible high ratio of scores. But they you can see the way they're coached. Sol are coached to get in to get goals, and you know we got 3 there on Sunday. They definitely could open up more. They won I thought it was a comfortable win in the end, without even Sol playing to their best. But the championship fans aren't for dazzling; they're for winning, and Sol done that. Fair play to everybody involved.
no, it's as you say, maybe it wasn't our best performance, but we got over the line anyway, and you know, it's good celebrations anyway. Everyone was happy, so that's all you got. a few shandies is right. No, it was great. No, it's great to see, and it's brilliant for the Sol people as well. So that's it. Move on now. Okay, so we're going on to our senior pick man. All right. We'll talk about the final first, I suppose, and then we'll go through your All-Stars. Lads, what can we say about this Kilcoo performance and Kilcoo team this year? You know, I just think since the 1 point game, it's scary for the rest of down football, if I'm honest, Doran.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Look, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was, I probably was in that group, and maybe a lot of other people thought maybe Kilcoo's maybe coming to an end, maybe with a Chuck and Lavery, maybe their leaders. Some people saying maybe they haven't the strength coming through in depth, but to be fair, Sunday week ago again, wearing point, I think that was well and truly shoved and rammed down everybody's throat. And look, I was actually sitting beside a man. I just looked at the team sheet. It was their subs. I think their subs in Darrow, Hanlon, Aaron Morgan, Ignis, Anthony Morgan, Justy Clark, and he says Marty McCord, and they're going, they ain't going anywhere. And look, it's tough. Look, to be fair, you can't give Kilcoo enough praise, because they've put a plan in place 20 years ago. They were going to invest heavily in their youth. They have a serious group of footballers there. They're actually, I think I said this last week, and that's no disrespect to anybody else that's been over. Mickey Moore has them now playing better football than they've ever played. They've serious pace. Look, they'll play you any way they want. If you sit in defensive against them, they'll just pick you off. They'll make the holes. If you open up, they'll destroy you with a pace. It's just they've so many, there's just so many strings to their bow. And I think and probably as Kilcoo people are not thank you for saying this, but I just don't even see anybody in Ulster this year. They're probably ripping. Mm-hmm. I didn't see anyone in Ulster even getting anywhere near them. I think they're that far in front. But also, it's a big down clubs are now going to have to step up. They really are going to have to step up, because look, you can say this, so they're that good and that good. I still think any given day, if some team gets themselves set up, any team's beaten, you can still, and we're looking, to be fair, 1 point beat them in that game, but in a knockout game, Kilcoo's a different animal. They're a completely different animal when they're at the back door. Look, but when they know it's knockout, they're a different animal, and it's up to the Bordens, the Mayor Bridges, the Stavers, the Clonduffs, the Kerry Duffs to up their game. It's up actually to everybody, and I think that some people say it's not good for down football. But I actually think now, when you think it is good for down football, because the rest of down clubs are going to have to lift their standard. because Kilcoo, look, they are the standard bearers. Everything they do everything to the letter of the law. They make sure that should it be training, strength and conditioning, injuries, prehab, everything they do to the best. And it's just now, it's up to the rest of the clubs to catch them. And I think, like, it is a bad reflect maybe in down when you think they've won. I think it's now 10 of the last 12. Bourne's won 2. And then there's a long gap. I think Clonduff maybe and Brentford are the last teams, maybe Snook 1 each. There's a lot of clubs, mate. Like, there's a lot of clubs haven't won championships. But look, as it says, that's not Kilcoo. Kilcoo are there. Kilcoo's going to take some beating in the next 4 or 5 years. But it's up to the rest of the clubs just to get themselves to work harder, try and lift the standard, and that has to be legit. It must be everybody's focus next year. We need to get to Kilcoo's level, because simply if you don't, they're going to blow you away.
Yeah. Fitzy, I suppose, but just the match. I just want to ask you 2 questions. The match, where's carried off? Did you believe that they could do it, could cause an upset, and did they believe they could cause an upset?
No, carried up are never going to win that game, and I mean that in the greatest respect. There was their first senior championship final. You have to think they came up here. They didn't even win an intermediate championship. They've got themselves into Division 1. It was. If you even look at the bookies odds, they were rank outsiders, and I don't even know. I think there was great support for the carried up team from their club and all, but I think deep down, I think they didn't honestly believe they could beat them. Kilcoo, one thing, I was watching the game and I was wondering, especially in the second half, starting to think, are carried up on a damage limitation exercise here? Because why not they should have thrown caution to the wind in the second half and went to Kilcoo a bit more. They wouldn't have won it. Still, there would have been a real feisty game of it, but I just thought maybe it was a damage limitation, and they can come away from saying, it's possible moral victory in it. There's definitely learning points in it. They've learned a lot about a championship final, and you can't go in and be nice against the Kilcoos, and you can't stand off them, and all those things we'll have learned. But great achievement getting there. But if they are going to, push on that next level and topple a Kilcoo in a knockout game, they've a long, long way to go, as do the rest of the clubs. Because boys, I'm telling you, Kilcoo are just operating on a different plane to everybody right at this time, and quite possibly, I think they've eclipsed the Bridge team and the Naughties. They've obviously have got the All Irelands in the bank, but if Kilcoo can get a couple of stabs at Ulsters and All Irelands in the next couple of years, they could go into history, because I think they are that good.
Fitzy, as well, just with the job DJ Morgan's done with carried off, I suppose it can't be underestimated how, with his under 21 success and bringing them up and actually fulfilling, getting to the senior championship final. What a journey as well.
Incredible. DJ actually started off with a minor team in carried up, and then in with 21s and got those down and Ulster titles, got carried up down to Division 1. That is no mean feat, and he's kept a real nucleus of a team together there. I know he brought in Cahill Murray this year as well. Paddy Dockery from Ballykiller's involved, and Shane O'Neill, who was famous Sean O'Neill's son as well, in there too. So they've a good management team there. There's a good backing from a good strong committee. They do have the underage success to back it up, but DJ was a big part of that, and he brought that through. They can be extremely proud of their efforts as a management team to get carried up to that final. And look, there is that gap, and I just don't know if they truly, everybody believed they would actually topple Kilcoo. But again, full credit to DJ, who's probably, for me, I know DJ, and one of the shrewdest tacticians and football minds we've got in the county, and fair dues to him and his management team, because it was a success getting to the final big time.
Yeah. Pete, I suppose, it's good to have you on, because then, you used to come up against Kilcoo in the knockout stages, the quarter-final stage, Wounded Animal, and, ever since the knockout stages, they've just got better and better, and I suppose they're just saying now, they wish they had been in Ulster. But what do you think is the difference between Kilcoo and the rest?
I think there are a couple of differences. First of all, Kilcoo have now played between 2019 and 2020, between Down, Ulster and All Ireland, 17 championship matches. And they've only lost 2. They lost to Warren Point by a point, and they lost to Corofin after extra time. So they are a superb championship team. I think the biggest compliment I can pay Kilcoo is to say that 15 for 15, they haven't got the best squad in the county. In terms of skill, in terms of maybe pure football ability. 15 for 15, Kilcoo are not the best 15 in this county. But what they are is they are by far.
Hold on, Pete. Hold on. There's a couple of boys shaking their heads.
They are by far the best team in this county, because the collective of that group is far greater than the sum of the 15 individual parts. And the reason it is because they work harder than any other team. They put in more than any other team. They give up more than any other team. And they know that every one of their group is doing that. They know it's not just the leaders. They know it's not just the Conor Lavertys, the Chop Brannigans, the Jerome Johnsons who are making these sacrifices. The Kilcoo number 24 or number 27 or number 29 or number 33 in that senior squad are doing everything exactly as the first 15 are. And in a lot of other clubs, that isn't the case. In a lot of other clubs, you'll have boys 3-4 weeks before championship deciding maybe to go on a drink ban. You'll have maybe a couple of other boys saying, oh, we'll just have a couple of pints this weekend. You'll have number 27 on a squad saying, oh, that doesn't apply to me. I'm not going to get game time. And all of this slightly weakens spirit in other groups. They mightn't actually notice it there at the time, but when you put yourself up against a Kilcoo who are doing everything as well as they do, then those weaknesses are shown. That's the first thing. I think when they lost to Warren Point, they pulled that sense of defeat and injustice that they felt had been handed to them and galvanised their effort around that again. And they are experts at sort of bringing this "it's us against the world" mentality in. And to be fair to them, it works. They rally that through the group, and there is a never say die attitude there. I do agree that the football they've played this year is by far the best football we have seen Kilcoo play on their run so far. I would agree with what Mark said. The Burn team of the 80s, they have the All-Irelands to back themselves up. And until Kilcoo can win one or two All-Irelands, they won't be classed as the best team in Down history. I think the Bridge team of the Naughty still deserve a mention in there too, in that they didn't have a back door. If they lost the championship game, they were gone. Which obviously Kilcoo now, they lost this year, for example. But they are, don't get me wrong, they're a great team. I think if it had gone on, the club football had been going on to Ulster, I think they would have won Ulster. And I think they would have been very, very close to winning an All-Ireland. But I do go back to my first point on pure ability. Pure footballing ability, I think there are better 15s in this county. And what lets those teams down is that the players in those clubs aren't prepared to make the same level of sacrifice or put in the same level of work that Kilcoo do. An example would be, I was talking to a fella who works actually in the butchers in Rostrevor, and he's also a farmer. And one of the Kilcoo players delivers stuff to the farm. And this is now 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. He was saying that he was up delivering stuff for the farm, and he says, do you want to come in for a cup of tea? So the player came into the house for a cup of tea and works in the butcher's, lovely cut of ham sitting on the table and white bread. And he says, do you want a ham sandwich? And the answer he got was, no, that's not in my diet plan. And he refused to take a ham sandwich. I'm not even going to go into what he said to biscuit offers. But he simply wouldn't take a ham sandwich. Because that wasn't in what he had planned in his diet for that period of the year. And that's the level that Kilcoo are at. And the reality is that if another club wants to topple them, that's the level that it's going to take those players to go to in order to do it.
Well, my point would be that Kilcoo, Pete, are superior skill-wise to everybody because they play a possession-based game and everyone's comfortable in the ball. Yes, there's certain individuals who are more talented than others, as any 15, but I think Kilcoo's skill level is second to none, to tell you the truth, and that's why they can play that skill-based game, and the ball is king. Doran, what's your thoughts on that?
To be fair with Pete's saying, there would have been labelled against them 4 or 5 years ago, but I think that label has been well and truly washed. I thought again, Warren Point, they gave the best individual of a team display of skill, pure football. I actually don't think there's any team in Down anywhere near their skill at the minute. Like they're yes in every team, but I think to say they're not the best football ability team in Down. I know they're at their skill. Like 3 or 4 years ago, yes, that was true again. Them were Kilcoo. You had them, teams you had a maximum work rate, but this Kilcoo team, look, it's just, I think their skill level is at on our level now. Just this last couple of years, but I go back to that World Point game in the knockout stage where I just thought that was the best individual of a club team display I've seen in a long, long while. Just their skills. I don't want to name the Dilly Wars, the Sheelan Johnsons, the Ryan Johnsons, the Aaron Brannigans, PDs, the Jerome Johnsons, the Ryan, just their ball control, the Laverys, they're right. I think their football ability could not be in question. I go back to the Ulster final last year in Oma. I remember sitting in Oma when they played Green Ore, and Peter and Donegal said Green Ore is the best footballing team in Donegal. They're probably the best footballing team in Ulster. Kilcoo absolutely just wiped them on pure football, just destroyed them. And like if a Donegal man sitting telling you this is one of the best footballing teams, this is the best footballing team in Donegal. We're probably the best footballing team in Ulster. Slot Neil play this old dog again. This team here just goes and plays. And Kilcoo absolutely demoralised them just on pure football that day. Now I do. Pete says I would label it 3 or 4 years ago, yes, but I definitely couldn't label this team with.
Yeah.
And as I said, Mickey Moore has been playing. I put that down to Mickey Moore and Conor Gilligan. Just their skill level is out of this world at the minute.
That's just last point then with this. We see the Tyrone Championship, how competitive it is. It's a straight knockout. Doran says that people are maybe getting a bit fed up with this, with the Kilcoo sort of dominance of it. Do you think we need to go to a knockout situation now, or are you happy with? I know it's a broader argument for another day, but do you think it's time for a straight knockout?
Yeah, there's pluses and negatives. I personally, from a traditional point of view, would like to see a straight knockout across all our 3 championships. Now I know junior championship, not this year, but previous years had the straight knockout, but I would love to see it in. And if it was marketed right, maybe get the leagues finished and down, and then have our championship, big PR push on it. As a brilliant marketing product down, get a few big sponsors in behind it. I think knockout's the way for us to go, but that financial argument keeps hitting me all the time. And I remember it's been quoted at one stage that if Down did do away with the back door in the senior and intermediate, stand to lose maybe £70,000. So
right.
There's a big, strong financial argument. But the traditionalist in me, and I would like the knockout, but I can't see it. Things changing anytime soon, simply because the financial argument's too strong.
No. All right, lads.
Can I just come back in on one thing? Sorry, John.
Go ahead, Pete. Yes.
To reference back to the point I was making, and I would have made the same point 3 or 4 years ago, but I do think it still rings true. And I think the proof of it is if you look at the Down County squad, there are a number of clubs with more representatives there than Kilcoo have. And I think if Kilcoo were the most skillful team in the county, they should have the most players in the county squad.
That's because they won't go because Donny hasn't asked them nicely enough.
If you're waiting on Dorney, it'd be nice to be waiting a long time.
We're gonna start a petition, bring back the 2 Petes.
You're not on that ticket, Dorney, so you may scratch that one quickly.
Sammy's used boys walked over. Behind that.
I think Straver might sign that there too, don't I? Right, Pete. Right. Go on to goalkeepers now. All right. So this is for our All-Star Senior Football Championship, okay? Our nominees, and I suppose, Pete, you'd have to have your Straver goalkeeper in there.
He certainly came into the thinking. Didn't get the position, but I thought he had a couple of very good championship performances. I thought Gary McMahon, from Warren Point, had a couple of very good championship performances, but I thought for me the standout keeper of the championship, despite the fact he conceded 4 goals in his first match, was Mark Hines from Carryduff. Thought he was comfortably the best netminder, as a high profile commentator would say, the best netminder in the championship. He had a super save early in the quarter final against Bryansford that propelled Carryduff on, and made a couple of very good saves against Ballyholland as well. Clean sheet against Kilcoo. For all of Kilcoo's dominance and all of their skillful players. He had a clean sheet in that game. And I think Mark Hines, for me, is the number 1 in the senior team of the year.
So Gareth Clark doesn't even make your All-Star team, Pete. He'll not be happy.
There's no bias here, John.
Doran?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Pete. Like, Mark Haynes was probably conceded 4 goals in the first game against Hilltown. You're thinking, right? But look, to be fair, after that, the saves he made against Ballyholland alone were crucial. Gary Mahan had a brilliant championship also. Also, if you're Chris Turley, I thought from Loughnane had a very good championship. If you're looking Niall Keane also on the score, just a score getting, I think Niall maybe chipped in the championship 8 or 9 points. But look, Mark Haynes was, for me, the best goalkeeper in Down Championship this season.
Good stuff. Fitzy, I suppose, like, you know, the two boys were saying Mark Haynes there, and yes, had a great championship. But do you think because of Kilcoo's dominance, Bo doesn't get the sort of mentioned in the same, you know, how important he is for Kilcoo as well?
Niall Keane did. He had a good championship. I don't know if he had a brilliant championship. He's done very well to oust McCourt from that number 1 jersey. You know, Niall Keane came in after his brother Stephen Keane and then took on that role, and then Mark McCourt came displacing there. Remember last year in the run to the All-Ireland final, and Niall Keane's worked very hard to get that place back. His kicking now has really improved. I think his set place kicking has improved big time. But in terms of goalkeepers, mentioned the Clark from Straver, you know, who came in there and livened up our championship a bit and had some great moments. Gary McMahon's shot stopping was hard to beat, and he's a brave soul, and some of his shot stopping was first rate. Mark Haynes, again, yes, that there was going to be 4 goals and all conceded against Clonduff, but maybe defensively that was the issue. But it's a toss-up between McMahon and Haynes. I think McMahon, for me personally, I know the boys at this community, they think Haynes, but I think McMahon edged. He had some big moments in the championship.
Good stuff. All right, been overruled, lads. Fitzy's the final say. Hey.
Right or wrong?
The referee.
Pete, 6. Give me your 3 defenders, and then Donny will go for 3 fullbacks as well, just to see who you've got in them positions. Your 3 fullbacks.
I have actually 3 different clubs in my fullback line. At number 2, a Carry Duff representative, Lorcan Toll, who I thought came into the team, and since he came in there has been absolutely superb in the championship. Only 19, he's already represented down at mine on under 20 level, and I think he will certainly go on to represent the county at senior level. My fullback, I think, is Ryan McAvoy. Absolutely no way you could leave him out of the team. I think the guy is everything. Superb all-rounder, physically big and strong. I actually couldn't believe after our game against Kilcoo, I shook his hand and I couldn't believe the physical size of him. When you're looking out in the field, you think he's big, but when you're actually standing there, the lad's 6'3" maybe, and he's a broad frame as well. You're not 6'3", Mark. Don't worry. But he's also capable of man marking.
I'm 6'2".
Oh, that was the other one. Capable of man marking jobs, but also equally adept getting up the field and kicking a point as well. A real all-rounder, and he's my fullback. And at left cornerback, I was a wee bit cheeky here. I picked someone who actually normally plays at number 3 as well. I went for Patrick Murdoch at Warren Point, who I thought it was a superb championship for them. Really good year. Kicked again in some games, came up and kicked vital scores, but as a pure rugged defender, coming out, winning possession, denying forward time and space, Paddy Murdoch, I think, is excellent. And my full back line, he had to get in there. So I have Lorcan Toll, Ryan McAvoy, and Paddy Murdoch.
Wee bit of typical all-star, what do you call it, creativity there, Pete, putting Paddy Murdoch into the corner. So,
or maybe Niall McLean's got it wrong. He's actually a cornerback anyway.
There's a headline by McLean has it wrong. Doran, full back line.
I went with Aaron Brannigan, just a cornerback. I think every game Kilcoo played, he said to go and do a man marking job. And to be fair, there's nobody's ever got the better of him. So I think Aaron was a cert. You could play Aaron in the half-back line, but in Kilcoo's championship games, he has literally went and done the man marking job. So put him in at cornerback. I agree with Pete, Ryan McAvoy. I think Ryan's superb for a 19-year-old. As I said, I think I said it a couple of weeks in a row. He reminds me so much of a young Brenton Rodgers. It's not Neil, just the way he attacks out the ball. There's no better sight when you see Ryan McAvoy coming, driving out with a ball, and just the big legs open up. He's a serious athlete, and Ryan's a big future ahead of him. Left cornerback, I went with Conor Cassidy of Kerry Duff. Just again, Jerome Johnson has absolutely destroyed every defender he's marked this year. Conor Cassidy held him to a point, and I think just for that, and also the semi-final again, Ballyhone was absolutely superb. He just seemed to be everywhere, cutting balls out. Even again, Longstone, the quarterfinal, done a superb job in Mark Poland. And I think Conor Cassidy, just for the roles he's done, like alone even for Jerome Johnson the other day, the final, the cut Jerome that point, the way he was playing, I think that was my full back line I went with.
Tony, your half back line then, just to see if we can move people around. Fitzy's scratching his head here, he's been under pressure here.
Right like hell.
Again, it's moving people around. Yes, I'll go with the half back line that I have picked. I went with Daniel Guinness. I just think Daniel has been superb. I thought when Cherryduff were really struggling again Longstone, Daniel was the boy that grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and drove at them. Even in the Ballyhone game, Daniel kicked 2 or 3 brilliant points. I know, look, I've left John McGill out. I know people will say John McGill, but you boys didn't want to interrupt the night. I was on after the Longstone game. They were raving about John McGill, but John McGill is very good going forward. In my age, doesn't mark at all. It was the night that Longstone is actually marking a brother of mine, Conor Doran, and Conor kicked 5 points in the first half. And I think John is brilliant going forward, but John really needs to add that defensive bit this game. So in that thing, I put Daniel Guinness at centre half back. I've had to go with Dabbs. It probably wasn't Dabbs. He's had better championships, but if you think the game again, Warren Point, even Bourne, he just is superb. Look, Darren O'Hagan could have been close. Darren had a brilliant individual game again, Warren Point. But look, the fact Dabbs, every championship game, goes and does his job. The thing I have with Dabbs, you never hear his word. He just goes and does it. So I went with Daniel Guinness, Dabbs, and at left half back. This is a toss-up, and I've actually fired another Kilcoo player up the field just to get this man in. I think Ryan McGee from Warren Point, every single game. Just look, people forget Warren Point having a brilliant year, brilliant championship. And to be fair, every single game, Ryan McGee has been their standout player. Yes, I agree with Pete. Paddy Murdoch had a brilliant game. Again, Kilcoo kicked 2 points, but then in the knockout stages, Kilcoo went and nullified that when they put Eugene Brannigan on them. And Paddy just was down out. But I just think every single game, even the Hilltown game when Warren Point was struggling, Ryan McGee was still the man to drive them on. The Kilcoo game they were beaten, and Ryan McGee was still, in my age, Ryan McGee was a better. I just had to get him in. I think he's had a brilliant championship. Yeah. And that's the half-back line I went with.
Like senior football now, especially the likes of, the man marking jobs, and players play anywhere now. So like, I wonder if you're going to pick this, one of my picks. But go ahead, Pete, your half-back line.
Probably not, John. No. And by now you're bound to know that I hate correcting Dorney, but I know we all like sort of giving our families the up, but his Conor only kicked 4 points against Carryduff, not 5. My half-back line, I start off with a Kilcoo man. Mark actually mentioned him there, is Eugene Brannigan, who I think his versatility this year shone through. I thought he played in a number of different positions, but in terms of actually a dogged person who's going to get stuck in for you, who's going to give an opposition nothing, I put him at wing half-back. Also notable that he actually did kick 9 points during the championship, including 3 in both the semi-final and final. But I have Eugene at 5. My centre half back, again, Mark's going to be delighted here, is John McGill. Again, got himself on the score sheet in every round, but I actually do think he offers something to that Carryduff defence. I think he's a presence in there, and I think he's a leader as well that is directing operations for other players. I've maybe not always the tightest himself. And at 7, I had Daniel Guinness. Again, a superb athlete, incredible engine. His ball carrying ability is absolutely central to the way Carryduff play their game, and couldn't leave Daniel Guinness out of that half-back line at all. So my half-back line was Eugene Brannigan, John McGill, and Daniel Guinness.
Good stuff. Boys, I just want to throw a name out. Maybe you've got him in a different position. But I thought Keely Dock as a man marker was brilliant. I think that
Keely Dock done a good job on John Boyle. John, I have actually Keely Dock up. Simply because John Boyle went back and played, and I thought Keely Dock went and done a superb job on him. He done a great job on Daniel Guinness on Sunday, but again, Daniel Guinness was wing half back. I know Keely Doherty had 5. on his back, but he seemed to play up the field. Look, I can't. That's a great. He's just a wee mini Lavery. Only he's really. That's look. To be fair, he's at that this game. I didn't think he'd been as good as man marker as he's turned out to be.
Yeah, no, I seen him. He was man marking. I know Jordan hurt his hamstring, Pete, but he went in Jordan centre half forward as well. Whenever our centre half back, whenever Chalk was meant to be on Jordan then.
Like I said at the start, these teams are subjective, and you're going to leave people out to include other people, and it's very, very difficult to sort of pick the 6 best players. I think Tomas Gordon must have had a very good championship as well. It's probably worth a mention in there. But like you could go through every team that played in the championship, pick 2 or 3 defenders who have done their jobs particularly well in a couple of the games they have played. But at the end of the day, you have to make decisions. You have to come up with some kind of line in your own head that gets someone in or doesn't get someone in, and it does end up that people are left out. But he didn't get into my team, but that's not to say he hadn't a great championship, and Keelan is a good footballer.
Maybe he's just not skillful enough. Right, Fitzy? What? Who are we going with? Our 6?
This is tough. Yeah, this is tough. Just on a point, see one player has been mentioned, and I think he was brilliant throughout the championship for Cuckoo. It was Niall McAvoy. Now, I know Niall McAvoy might have had 15, but Niall McAvoy was brilliant throughout the championship.
You're trying to get him in every single week, Fitzy.
He didn't start the semi-final, didn't he not?
No, but I thought his final performance was, and even previous rounds, Niall McAvoy, for a man his age. But,
he plays a sweeper role. He plays that sweeper role.
Did he play in the first game against Warren Point? That's what I couldn't. Whenever you were sitting, did he? Yeah. Did he play the first game against?
The only one he missed the semi-final game. But look, he's a boy who's done very good. Look, as Pete said, look, that's only our opinion. If you ask 10 people down the street, they'll have a different.
Yeah.
Well, Fitzy, whoever you want, you put in, Fitzy.
That's all right. I do what I want now. Right,
most referees do.
Yes. I'm not a referee, boy. I don't know where you get that from.
Well, you're the referee tonight for this team.
All right, yes. Right.
Maybe we should pick it up. Go ahead.
Aaron Brannigan, maybe not his best final, but over the course of the championship, that was a good championship for Aaron. Ryan McAvoy, who has carried on his form from last year, is outstanding. And I see there he's mentioned he wants to get involved with county football and all, so that's great for Down. So Aaron Brannigan and Ryan McAvoy, and I think we keep getting this in our head, this Kilcoo demolition of Warren Point in that game, and we keep overlooking maybe Patrick Murdoch. I generally think his championship was top drawer. So Aaron Brannigan and Ryan McAvoy, Patrick Murdoch. Then half-back line, actually, I think 2 carried up boys make this. I'm hoping Eugene Branning and Keelan Doherty maybe come into the equation in the forward line and such, but Daniel Guinness, superb championship. John McGill, I know what Doran said there about maybe his man marking abilities, but in terms of all-round football ability and bombing forward from half-back and that, I would have him, McGill and Daniel Guinness, and Dabs Brannigan in the centre, who is Mr. Reliable, and I still say one of the best sights in Gaelic football is him, full flight with a ball under control. It's superb. So Daniel Guinness, Darrell Brannigan, and John McGill.
Good stuff. All right, Tony, your 2 midfielders then.
2 midfielders, Dilly Ward and Josh Conroy. I just think the 2 of them have been standout performances but all year. Look, to be fair, I know Dilly Ward missed the first couple of games for Kilcoo coming back from an injury, but look, sometimes you watch Dilly a couple of years ago, you're thinking, is Dilly really interested? But this year he seems to have that bite between his teeth. He's hungry. You just know he wants the ball. And look, for a midfielder with a pace he has, it's exceptional. It's everything. I think Dilly's a boy. If he can go to it'll be up to Dilly how far he wants to go. If Dilly wants to go to the top, I think he'll go because he's serious pace. He's a brilliant tackler. I think he's added so much to his game, and I think he's a shoe-in for me. And like the Jerry Duff, Josh Connery just has been an athlete, just really impressed when we get along Stone. He was actually marking the county man that night, Connor Pole. Just his athleticism. I seen Josh a couple of years ago, under 21s and minor level, and he seemed to just fit in and out of games. This year he's just been he has been a real leader for Jerry Duff. And I think them 2 have been the standout midfielders that I have seen. Look, you give Paul Murphy a mention, Paul, for the age and the drive he gave Ballyholland. Yes, it was great. Look, I still go back to, I think I said Lahanine playing Ballyholland. I thought Dan Gordon gave an exhibition of feeling. for 20 minutes as good as I have seen, but look, I think them two are the top midfielders I've seen this year in the championship.
Pete?
Yeah, I've got one of those guys in. I've gone for Dylan Ward. I think, as Mark said, the longer the championship went on, the better he got. Gets through serious amount of work. He was sublime in the second Warren Point match, and nailed in cert there as one of the two midfield slots. But the other one, I actually went for someone who lit up the early rounds of the championship, and is the only player in my team who actually his team didn't even make the quarterfinals. I've gone for Charlie Smith from Mayo Bridge, whose free taking was exceptional. His striking of the ball is absolutely beautiful. But aside from that, he had an impact in the centre of the field in terms of breaking kickouts forward, in terms of winning some ball. He's big and strong enough that he's able to get tackles in and act as a blocker as well. And I think from a down perspective, the emergence of the likes of Charlie Smith, Dylan Ward as young midfielders, and as Mark said there as well, Josh Connery, who's only 20 as well. You know, that has been a problem position for Doran in recent years. And there is maybe a generation of younger midfielders coming through now who can start to step into those positions. But in terms of my championship midfield, I went for Dylan Ward, Kilcoo, and Charlie Smith, Mayo Bridge.
Good stuff. A curveball there from Pete, let's say. So, who's your two? Who is the load of balls midfield pairing?
Midfield pairing, can't overlook Dilly Ward. Brilliant championship. He seems to really develop this year, and he's an all-rounder, scoring, defending, fielding, tackling, and he's got a bit of edge to him too, which is great. Great mention there, great shout from Pete about Charlie Smith, who you'll probably see in the next couple of years will really become a big player for the Bridge. But another wee notable mention for Aidan Brannigan, Chop. Now I know he didn't start the semi-final, but he's had a good championship and he plays in around the middle there. So mention to him. But Josh Connery, as Dylan Ward's partner, Josh Connery keeps the box, and for the 60 minutes he's up and down and up and down. Him and Dylan Ward would be my choice for midfield this year.
Oh, two super players. And I suppose Dilly Ward, I suppose he came to first heard of him whenever he was marking Kevin McKernan. I think he got man of the match in one of the finals. Would it be right? I think he scored 2 or 3 points. Like that was the first time. How many years ago was that now? Like
3 years ago, is it?
Was it 3 or 4 maybe?
No.
Pete, do you know?
Kevin McKernan, wing half forward.
Mm-hmm.
I really remember he played Derry Gunley last year. I thought he was marking Ryan Jones a season at inter-county football, and that's when I really started. Like you wouldn't have knew Ryan Jones in the field. He done a serious job, and that's when I really sat up and took notice of him. Sometimes when you watch Dilly, you maybe watch him in a league game one week and he's superb, and you see him a week later and he just gives you that impression. Look, just get this game over with. I thought this year he's just his hunger. He's a boy I've been really impressed with. But that day, Derry Gunley game last year was in the first game. I remember sitting in the athletic grounds really taking notice of him. Just the job he done on an inter-county player.
Well, I know he changed his physique. I don't know whether it was for the disco or for the football pitch, but it certainly helped him with the football pitch anyway. And he's been absolutely superb this year. And Josh Connery, boys, what an engine! And as I said before, midfielder just keeps it simple and links to play.
Yeah, I think one of the big things about Josh Connery is he realises his own limitations and plays to his strengths, which, as you say, is winning ball, is covering ground, and doing the simple thing in possession. Got a goal in one of the rounds, but I think maybe didn't score apart from that. But still had a brilliant championship. And to be a midfielder, there are many ways you can affect a game. Connery knows that. He knows what his strengths are, and he plays to those every single time.
Good stuff. All right, Pete, we'll have your 6 forwards then, because we know that players now are starting a corner, maybe come out and starting full forward and play centre half forward and play centre half forward and go into full forward. So there's no real positions in the full forward line anymore. So we'll just go for your 6 forwards.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I agonised over the forward line for a long time, and in the end, I had to come up with some way of being outright what. One player who I want to mention back. Stop talking there now. Stop talking.
Don't know what happened there.
Just go from the forward line again.
Yeah, hold on a second. All right, Pete, so your 6 forwards then.
Yeah, the forward line is a 6 positions that I agonised over a bit for picking this team. I think we need to give a notable mention here to James Guinness, Carrie Duff. And I think it's notable as well to say that in their preparation for the final, when Carrie Duff learned during the week that James Guinness wasn't going to be a part of that match, that would have dented their already faint hopes of causing an upset in the Kilcoo game. So James Guinness, I thought, had a very good challenge. He ends up that he doesn't make my forward line because the line that I ultimately went for deciding my 6 players was to pick the 6 top scorers in the championship. Because a forward's job ultimately is to score. Now, I know a number of these are free takers, but I felt still that by going for the 6 scorers, it would be difficult to argue with it.
Mm-hmm.
So my half forward line is.
So you were covering yourself. You were covering yourself, Pete. Is that what you're trying to say?
I have my angles covered. Yeah, number 10, Paul Devlin, Kilcoo. Number 11, Jerome Johnson, Kilcoo, and Jerome's a notable one here because his total of 414 came almost or maybe entirely from play, which is highly notable. 4 goals. Obviously, he was the top goal scorer in the senior championship this year as well. And I think for once, Jerome maybe shook off. I know it was mentioned earlier on about Dylan Ward, but Jerome as well shook off an inconsistency tag in the championship this year and delivered for Kilcoo game to game. So he's in at 11, and at 12 I have Stephen McConville, Hilltown. Now, despite going out in the quarter final, he still managed to finish the championship with 316. Which is an incredible total for a team that does exit at a quarter-final stage, and that puts them 4th in the overall scoring charts. My full forward line, 13 had Ross McGarry, Warren Point, 14 Ronan Beattie, Carrie Duff, who was the runner-up. Obviously, Carrie Duff finishing runner-up. He was their scorer-in-chief, kicked 7 points in the championship final, which in itself is a highly notable achievement. And at number 15 then, to round off the team, I went with Shamie Loughran from Ballyholland, championship top scorer, 30 points. Now, to actually kick not 30, to score 30 times in a championship campaign, that's quite exceptional. He's absolutely lethal from the dead ball, and I couldn't leave him out. So my forward line is Paul Devlin, Jerome Johnson, Stephen McConville, Ross McGarry, Ronan Beattie, Seamus Loughran.
Good stuff. Doran.
Look, I just hope I would love to play again that forward line with Kieran Brannigan refereeing it. Don't give any plays away. That's their own scoring and we're humming a boat.
The shape you're in, you couldn't play against too many forward lines.
We'll go anyway.
He's getting a due tonight, don't he, boy?
He's
getting a due tonight.
No, to be fair, he did a couple of it. Shimmy Loughran was a boy who's been talking about a lot. His free kicks are superb. And look, Shimmy's free kicks is probably one of the top best free kickers in Down. But if you think about the semi-final, he did have a wee off day. But it's still a dead ball kicking is great. But PD had a brilliant final. PD, like man of the match. It was great to see PD play so well. And PD's a boy, look, for Kilcoo, that left thing. PD is probably one of the nicest left foot strikes you'll see. Look, I'll go with the forward line. Again, I've moved boys about just simply because, just in form, I have just went who I have thought played the best football of a half forward line of Keelan Doherty, a whole Kilcoo half forward line, Keelan Doherty, Jerome Johnson, and Sheelan Johnson. I thought Doc, the roles he has done there, I go back to that. John Boyle, the whole talk was before the Kilcoo and point game, how was Kilcoo going to cope with John Boyle? Like Keelan Doherty just absolutely done it there. And only for Gary McMahon, Keelan Doherty had 2 goals. Look, Jerome, Pete made an interesting thing, inconsistent. Jerome was really stepping up to the mark this year. He's actually a markable. He's the player, I think, bar the Kerry Duff game, he's maybe went 2 different markers a game. He's just been on fire. And at left half, I think Sheelan Johnson. Look, I think Sheelan's a boy I've heard about a lot coming through. I remember PJ McGee telling me 6 or 7 years ago, I know Sheelan or Jerome and Ryan are probably not thanking for this, but PJ McGee told me 6 or 7 years ago, Mark, this boy is one of the best footballers I've ever had at St Malachy's for school. He is something special. Wait till you see when this boy arrives on the senior now, to be fair. Sheelan is ball control, his speed. If you'd won, maybe we niggle at Sheelan, maybe he doesn't score enough, maybe his possession, but it's his, the pace, the serious pace he gives Kilcoo just from breaking deep. And I remember talking to Conlon Gilligan last year in Asda, Conlon was in the sales rep, and Conlon was just like, a Kilcoo training every night. Aaron Brannigan and Dallas Brannigan sprint to him. He says, because they reckon that's the boy that tests the most, just with sheer pace. So I went with a half-forward line of Wee Doc, Jerome, and Sheelan. Now, Mark Walsh from Ballyhone was a boy who had a really good championship. I thought for Ballyhone, every game I've seen Ballyhone play was very good. Look, Liam Kerr with Narby, I thought Liam really carried Borden, but just probably, as somebody says, they were out early and then you sort of forget about them performers. But I thought consistency, them 3 boys in a half-forward line were my best 3. A full forward line, again, I've moved boys about. Like, I went with Eugene Brannigan simply because he lined up there again, more in points, again, Paddy Murdoch, and I thought he had a brilliant game. And so I think Pete mentioned he kicked 7 points. He's just a boy I think has to get into the team simply because he can do so many jobs. He can go and play midfield. He can go to wing half forward. And I think Eugenie has had it. Like, a couple of years ago, maybe people thought Eugene was just an hour stopper and go and mark now. But I think this year has really showed how good he is in the ball. He's actually a real good ball player. Look, Ronan Beattie, at my age, is a third at full forward, has had a brilliant championship. The scores he's up, and he's actually, Ronan was a boy who was in the county panel last year too for a wee while. But he's a ball, like Ronan's really improved this year as a ball winner. He's a great presence, and I think Ronan has on the team. And I went with Ryan Johnson at 15. Now Ryan, look, again, that inconsistency, people would say, but I thought this year Ryan Johnson had full flow. There was a score the other day in the final, I think. Gavin McGilly was sitting beside me. The ball was set down. Bobo Kane set the ball down. A quick kick out to Sheelan. Sheelan sprinted up the field. 5.5 seconds. Gavin McGilly had it in the stopwatch where Ryan finished it off, fisting the ball over the bar, where Ryan actually made a burst just in pace. And I think, look, Ryan really came into the fore. Again, Borden, he had a brilliant game. Middle of the field, then again, more on point. It's just that pace. Look, I think modern day football now has changed. It's pace. It's hard to beat. And I think Ryan has had another boy I just had to find a place for, and that was it. Look, Corey Quinn had a brilliant championship for Mayor Bridge, scored highly. I think Corey gave one of the best individual displays for 63 minutes, and then he ended up the villain in the last few minutes, just for scored. Barry O'Hagan's another. Like, man, you can make high scoring play, give 1 point of Tara time, but look, they're the 6 boys I went with. Look, again, that's my opinion. I've no doubt everybody else has a different opinion, but just what I have watched this year in the championship, they're the 6 boys I went for.
That's it. 2 contrasting picks from the 2 boys there. Who makes the final 6 for our team then?
Interesting perspective from Pete in terms of he went for the scores. I probably found myself aligning with Doran more. Eugene Brannigan would be my first pick. Eugene, he's very close for me to play the championship. Eugene Brannigan was superb, weighing in the scores and doing all those defensive and counter-attacking duties. So Eugene Brannigan's got to be there. And he's improved. There's definitely, and I put a lot of that down to Morning Gilligan. Brannigan Eugene has really, really improved. A name, now we're going to number 11, we'll go Jerome Johnson, but I'm surprised nobody's mentioned Conor Laverty. Laverty, he's the conductor there. What a final he had, and I thought he had a solid championship too. But Jerome Johnson 11, and then I'll go Keelan Doherty on the other wing. So it's an all Kilcoo half-forward line, and Eugene Brannigan, Jerome Johnson, and Keelan Doherty. Difficult now the full forward line because Ross McGarry getting mentions there. Again, I thought he had a decent championship, but I'm going to go, Stephen McConnell, the scoring exploits too, but you cannot leave Ryan Johnson out. Ryan Johnson really came into his own. Maybe some people saying he maybe dipped in previous years, but that was maybe injury related. But this year, clean bill of health, and he was flying. So I'm going to go with Ryan Johnson. Ronan Beattie at full forward. Now you go in against Kilcoo and you kick 7 points from playing in your first ever county senior final. It shows you've got something about you, and Ronan Beattie's in there. Tremendous championship apart even from the final. And the last pick is Ballyholland sharpshooter Shamie Loughran, who's free taking a second and none, and he can do it from play as well. And Pete's in there, hit not 30. That's serious scoring for a young fella in senior championship football. So Eugene Brannigan, Jerome Johnson, Keelan Doherty, Ryan Johnson, Ronan Beattie, and Seamus Loughran.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Pete, your player of the championship then?
Just to cut back quickly, and
Yes,
I
go
get
ahead.
exactly where the two marks are coming from there, and I think again it comes back to the subjectiveness of picking a team like this. You can go through different mechanisms and ways of picking your team, but just to pick up on Doran, he said my forward line wouldn't score enough in play. He made 4 changes to my team, and the 4 that he brought in between them played 24 championship matches and only scored 22 points. But so that's less than a point each a game. The other thing is just before we leave the forwards, I want to, because a lot of people would have obviously watched a lot of the games on Park TV this year. One of the great features of the Park TV was Patsy Russell's fantastic commentaries.
Well, I thought you were going to say me, Pete, but sure, go ahead.
No, I said fantastic. But in many of the rounds, Patsy would have referenced the onion bag. And I think for a lot of people, senior championship final, particularly the younger generation, was lit up by the explanation of where exactly the onion bag phraseology came from. And if you haven't heard it, folks, go on to Park TV, listen to Patsy Russell's comment, and you'll find out exactly the history of the onion bag phrase.
Just on that, but wasn't it great that a new generation has got to hear Patsy commentating as well?
It certainly was. And look, Park TV, just on that as well, provided a superb service. The boys from Mitchelstown, Pa, Fionn and Mike, and Darren McCoy with all his camera people as well, and all the commentators, yourself there included, John.
Cheers, Pete.
You know, that was a brilliant service in terms of bringing the championship to the people when they couldn't really get there. But to come back to the player of the championship, I narrowed it down to 2 quite quickly, and they're 2 Kilcoo players. Ryan McAvoy at full back, or again the same as in the intermediate, my centre half forward on my team, Jerome Johnson, and I went with Jerome. I thought his championship tallies were incredible. His championship performances were incredible. I thought against Warren Point in the second game, he put in probably the individual performance of the championship. And this is the Jerome Johnson that I think down people have been waiting to see. And hopefully he can bring that into the red and black jersey going forward. But for me, the player of the senior championship was Jerome Johnson.
Doran, any nominees and who have you gone for?
I thought Jerome was an easy pick. It was a bit like Kieran Harney. I thought it was a very easy pick. I thought Eugene Brannigan was they were the top 2 I had settled on. It was Eugene and Jerome, but I thought Jerome was just outstanding. I think every game, maybe bar the carried off game, he went through a succession of markers, and you think like the Warren Point game, Ryan McAleenan, who's a brilliant defender. You think Cormac McCartan, a brilliant defender. He just went through Peter Fagan, a brilliant defender. He had a brilliant championship, and it's great to see, because look, Jerome, that would have been a label Pete actually mentioned, inconsistent, and it was just great this year to see Jerome. Look, like the one thing about Jerome works serious hard, fierce hard. He's probably the first man at training to action freeze. I know even during lockdown, he was running about looking weights. He couldn't get gym. The gyms were locked up. He was ringing phone calls, going flat out, just needing weights, needing stuff. And look, I think Jerome was in my age was a cert, but I do think Eugene Brannigan had a brilliant championship. Also, Ryan McAvoy had a brilliant championship. But look, Jerome for me.
That's it. 2 boys have given you a name. Your nominees, and how'd you come to the decision then?
Funny, great minds think alike. My 3 nominees were Ryan McAvoy, Eugene Brannigan, and Jerome Johnson, 3 Kilcoo men. We've talked a lot about them here tonight. Eugene Brannigan, for me, I thought was definitely pushing there to be the best player in that championship. And then maybe just take the whole scope of the whole championship. Jerome Johnson, I think we need to make the call on him as senior player of the championship. The way he led that attack, the way he moved, the strength he's got about himself now, and a shooting ability, it's more on point now. So for being part of the best team in Down, he's the best player in Down at the moment, and the senior championship player is Jerome Johnson.
Brilliant. So there's Jerome with a player fit Loaded Balls podcast jersey as well now. So hopefully get in touch with Jerome, and we'll get that organised. Lads, I think it's been one of the best championships in years, and I don't know whether it was because we had the prospect of no football, or whether it was just the streaming, or what could you put it down to, Fitzy? Do you think for me it's just been the standard has just been superb.
When we were at a point, kind of April, May, when we thought a society we weren't going to have GAA this year, and that fear factor was still amongst us. And because I think we really realised the importance of GAA to us, and the fact that we got football and we kind of heard around June, right, football's going to happen, that lifted the Irish people, and I genuinely mean that. And I think we appreciated that we got to play, and to have it there. Yes, I know we had our leagues and down, but that championship meant everything this year. It was the real holy grail, and I think it was just an appreciation thing. And it was great having the coverage. You know, I think online, thanks to the BBC and the Irish News, really ramped up the coverage of club football, bringing in Park TV. You know, Down GAA stepped up with it, and the PR brought us closer to it. So, but for me, it was the fact that we thought we were going to miss something, and then we eventually realised we're not going to miss it. We just had that bit of gratefulness about us to realise, you know, we've got football now, and we'll make the most of what we have in this short space of time.
Brilliant. Doran, the seniors started up. You know, when he is, you know, he's training at the minute now, and then he's getting ready for the first game then.
Yeah, Leitrim in that's a Saturday evening game at 5 o'clock in Uri. I actually think Park TV's covering it.
Brilliant.
Look, it's I go back with Fitzy at the middle of March. You're sitting thinking this isn't going to happen. It's gone. And then we've got the club season started. We've got it finished, club championship finished, and now look, at the minute the county season is going ahead. And I hope it's able to finish, and it's great. But look, to be fair, at the minute that you started back to Tuesday night, look, to be fair, all focus is in Leitrim, and Leitrim's your Kerry. It's your Kerry game. You're preparing on Saturday. It's actually this week, Saturday, 3 weeks. Leitrim come to Park Esker, and look, we down maybe took the eye of the ball of Live last year and got turned over. So look, there's nobody looking any further than the Leitrim game. The Leitrim game is now, you're preparing for the Leitrim game as if it's Kerry. And look, to be fair, there's a few fresh faces into the panel. It's always good because it helps sharpen the whole thing up and keep everybody in their toes. But look, I can't really, that Leitrim game is the only thing you're looking forward to. There's no even mention of what's after it. It's just Leitrim and Park Esker that Saturday at 5 o'clock. And it's just your primary focus. And it's now good, to be fair to the Down County Board, they've given the county team all the help in the world. They could have dragged championship out to 11th October. That was the date. But to be fair, they've read at the championship up Raymondson. They've given the county team all the help and all. And it gives them pep race. There's nothing in the way now. It's just full focus on the Leitrim game. And it's great. You have that focus.
Brilliant. And lads, I just want to say, Pete and Doran, you know, my condolences to the Poland family as well. You know, on the tragic passing of Martin. You know, his funeral was today, and you know, such a big character in Longstone, and you know, by all accounts, the funeral was a great turnout, and you know, just a tragic circumstances that it happened. But Pete, just sad day for.
Yeah, look, I think all GAA clubs across Ireland probably in the last 12 months or even from the season started will have at some point had their own tragedy. And I think also that's when the GAA is at its best. That's when the community comes out to help people, to help families in times of crisis and in times of despair, as most clubs did during the early days of the coronavirus as well. It's never easy for a club or an area losing someone who is a big figure in the community. But GAA clubs and GAA people are excellent at helping mourning families grieve, and that is something that continues. And I think it is a very central part of the Irish mourning process is the GAA community rallying together.
No, and our thoughts are obviously with you know, his brother John and his extended family as well. So, man, I appreciate you just coming on tonight. You know, really do.
Just
go ahead.
On that as well, John, can I say a big thank you this year? I think this has got overlooked a number of times. We've mentioned what we thought this year about no football. Thanks to every coach and manager, to every team official, but more importantly, thanks to every single player across Ireland this year who has come in difficult circumstances to represent their teams, to represent their clubs. At a time when it would have been very easy to sit back and not take part, a lot of players have made huge sacrifices to give up their time to bring football back to their communities. And I think every single player that came out to play this year deserves a huge thanks from the people of Ireland.
Brilliant, Pete. Brilliant. Lads, I suppose, just on a final note, I think now with the championship and the players, I think people will start again, get back behind Down and start the optimism now of Down can start the challenge. And it's not as if, people are going to Down games going, oh, geez, how are we going to do this or how are we going to do that? I think, against Leitrim, I think, people at Down are going to be fully backing, get into Division 2 and give this championship a good crack. Would you agree, Fitzy?
Yeah, look, I'll admit I'm club first, county second, and this might sound strange, but in terms of I would follow a lot more club football over the years than county football, and yes, Down's run, especially during the 2010 All Ireland finals, Paul McComsky, my own friend, clubmate, was involved and big into them. But we Down need to get to Division 1 of the league, and they need to sustain themselves there. They need to get an Ulster Championship in the bag soon. Down need to get themselves up that level, because it's just honestly it's appealing. A successful team, successful county team is going to be more appealing, not only to the fans in the county but to sponsors, etc. So I think Mark Doran and all the current management team have a big job in their hands, and it'll be great. It's raising the status of Down senior football, and I think we'll get that promotion. And we need to get up there, but we need to aspire for more. Division 1's where Down need to be. But yeah, I intend to follow Down now, hopefully a lot more as these years go on.
Good stuff. Don't no pressure there. So Division 1 it has to be the goal.
And the championships were great because of attacking football. So let's see Down go out and play the same way.
Don't he is on you tonight, but
Well, we're not going to play cricket. I seen a cricket game in Uri one night, and we're not playing it.
Not too much cricket played in Uri, Mark.
Okay. Well,
I didn't see too many matches in Longstone this last number of years because I stopped going to Division 2 football.
Oh no!
Now Danny's going to be looking for you as well.
That's okay. I'll deal with them.
Lads, on that note, boys, thanks a million. To all our All-Stars, lads, great championship. To our player of the championships, we'll get the jerseys to you. I'll get contact with you. We'll do the junior show tomorrow. We'll hopefully have it out Friday. And lads, thanks a million. Thank you so much.
Congratulations to all the championship winners as well, to St Paul's, to Burn Miners, to Saul and to Kilcoo.
Glad, Pete.
And to yourself, John. You were involved.
Thank you, man. Cheerio.
All right, cheers, John.